Ben is a Scottish cinematographer who is known from his work on Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman and The Substance, which he won the European Film Academy Awards last year. Well deserved. And Ben also won BIFA for Best Cinematography for Brian Welsh's film called Beats. And also both of his last two feature films got nominated for Best Picture, which I think is an incredible achievement. Yeah. So I think my first question was that after Promising Young Woman, how did you land The Substance? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming, we should say, first of all. It is very sunny outside, so I'm glad you came to watch The Substance. Promising Young Woman and The Substance, for me, they have a little sort of spiritual connection, I think. You know, they're both kind of very sort of dark fairy tales told in a pop style. They've got quite a strong female lead who makes, pretty bad choices. There was like a definite connection there when I read the original script.
But how did you?
You could go back because I think there's a through line probably from Beast to Promising Young Woman and to The Substance. Beast was shown. It was premiered at Toronto, but there's like a spotlight thing at Sundance and. Emerald was there with her short, and she's seen it. And I remember when Emerald contacted me, she was like, oh, just love like that ending. I love like the conversation around it. I think there was even a Reddit thread around it. You know what I mean?
For the Beats?
For Beast.
Oh, Beast.
Because was Jessie Buckley the Beast or not?
Oh, okay.
And I just mean it had like, it got into a bit of the, climate and the consciousness of people. And obviously Emerald is very clued into that. She always seems to hit certain chords. So when she sent me Promising Young Woman, it was because she'd seen that. I think she said to me, you can just make like low budget look like it was like a lot of budget. And at the time, Promising Young Woman was like quite a low budget film in LA.
And
19 days.
You got it quite quickly, right?
It all happened like very fast. And
Emerald was pregnant at the time, and I remember that it was all go.
It was like, we did it in 19 days or maybe 21 with Drone Day.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah. So it was really, and it's quite a different picture, obviously. But cut to, the script arrived to me. I never know which way round that is. I actually asked and no one could tell me. So, because is it like did Corley go and say who's available because she was looking at DPs and then she chose my name? There were like 4 people I know that were in the running for The Substance. She did choose to meet me because she was a fan of Promising Young Woman, And I think when I got The Substance and started reading the script, I was like, there was definitely I could take that style a little bit further. You know what I mean? Or there was like that, trying to work out if there was more to get from a kind of pink noir vibe. You know what I mean? Like really play with that. And Corley, there were limitations when we made Promising Young Women. It wasn't, and we decided to make the films almost quite static, the camera, to begin with. You know what I mean? And we were working with a lot of limitations because it was so fast and so many scenes and so many actors. And in this one, I just knew that I could really push the camera and certain visuals a lot more. Also from seeing Corley's first film.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on it because it's...
Also, they're both named after precious stones.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a trilogy. That's the only... So I just need one more precious stone. Anyway, sorry.
So what were you thinking reading The Substance? And, did you watch Corley's first film?
So again, so I'd seen it in Toronto.
Oh, so you saw it before?
It was shown at the same time as I Made Beast. It was shown in the Midnight Madness section.
So there is a serendipity here.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of, but it's not until I look at it now I see sort of little connections. But it was, I was always really into it. It had quite a strong look I think, quite a strong kind of post look onto it, and it's much more kind of Rambo style because she's very genre focused. Again, I would say, so reading the script, having seen the film, it was, I mean, it reads very much like what you just watched. So, you know, you just don't read that many scripts that are like that. You know, it had, I think, 19 pages of dialogue, and it was 150 pages long.
Wow.
So it was very, it's very visual when you read it, and it's just, it had
So does it describe in sort of in
like in great
staccato
detail.
yeah.
And she almost lays out the words. So when it gets to like the pack that she orders, like the substance, she'll lay out the words like the same. So it read the same as you're reading like the pack and stuff.
Okay.
So she added things in. I think that is available online if anyone wants to read it. The original shooting script is available online.
Did she write it in English first, or did she write it in
I think
French
she did, because
and then translated?
so when her first film had finished, she went to live in LA. She was staying in LA, and she started writing it then.
Right.
In a 2000 and probably about sort of 17, 18, 19 type thing. And it was, yeah, I mean, every word of dialogue that's sort of spoken by men is being spoken to her in that film. So it's like a very interesting, obviously it's a high-end genre piece, but I remember when we first spoke, it really like struck me that she had a very personal connection to that, and she was sort of early 40s, and she felt like she was becoming like completely invisible, and she was getting treated quite differently. And obviously when I read the script, this is like cut to, because obviously we've had COVID and things, you know, end of 2021, and you know, it really struck me how much that, you know, that sort of obsession about beauty and just how kind of it had become so prevalent. Like I would go to a restaurant or go out, and you would hear people talking, or they're looking at their phones and they're going, "Oh, look at this part." You know what I mean? It was very much there. Like I read the script and I went out and I could see exactly how, and it's got even worse. I mean, it's getting even more. People are doing surgery like younger and younger, and you know, it's just it's a thing that was like, I was like, this is definitely going to be, it's going to have something, because it's so there in the culture.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was something that really, yeah, it got me into it. And it was really funny. And the last third is just totally insane. So, and it's written like that.
Yeah.
So
was it, I mean, obviously the whole, it's incredible because a lot of, you know, majority of the things are on camera, done on camera, except some VFX, obviously obvious VFX shots.
yeah, yeah.
But a lot of it is with body prosthetics, and a lot of very clever camera tricks, which we have some behind the scenes. We're just going to look into it in a minute. But how does it read first? How was it reading on the script?
Well, first of all, when I got sent it was actually set in LA. So I was like on the call.
And you knew at that time that you meant to be shooting in France?
No, she told me because they had written it wrong. They had got it wrong on the sheet that they send you out. So I was like, it's going to be in LA. And I'd obviously been there for Promising Young Women. I was like, I know that, we could do that there. Yeah, and then I got it, and she was like, no, we're doing it all in the studio in Paris.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And then it started to dawn on me that this is a very different, it's quite a heightened, it had a slightly heightened feel to it. I mean, it's not I think what Corley said to me very early on was she wanted sort of LA of the mind. Mm-hmm. It isn't real, none of it's, you know what I mean? It's adjacent to our world in that sense. And she would always describe it with like, I want blue sky, palm trees, pink wall, and a car. And that's our LA, and that's how we're going to make our LA.
That's it. No sort of signifying.
No, there was no, it didn't.
Structures.
Yeah. There was still, when I joined originally, we did have money to go. We were going to do like 2 days, and I was actually going to get, because it's a Rio Vista, of course. Mm-hmm. We got a scout to scout it, and we printed a soft drop.
So did you go to LA to do that?
No. We just got a scout. They went out. They went around all the canyons. They took pictures. We reviewed all the pictures. And it's quite interesting when you get into I don't know, I've jumped ahead, but I'll just get into it anyway.
Well, maybe-
because we jumped
maybe-
ahead from like soft drop to, because
Yeah.
when I joined, it was also a conversation of whether it would be LED screen. And I sort of changed it to the soft drop, which was one of the first things I did. And because the LED thing at that time was really not, it was just starting. There was so much money from companies to try and push
It
it.
was also huge and lots of rigging and
mad costs, and you'd be working with 9. It's a different brain to the brain that I think she wanted to make that film, which was all prosthetics. It's all handmade. It's every set is built. It's mostly in camera. The LED screen didn't fit into that.
Joel, can we open up the screen? I think it would be good to take a look at the backdrops of what we.
You can start the other way around.
No, that's okay. We've got some pictures. So obviously, you started talking about LED. I remember because we had a
I was ringing about that.
about discussion and.
The other thing, so it was palm trees, blue sky, and very important that she wanted hard light on the location.
Right.
And the first thing I started to realize when I tested the LED screen was the bounce back that you get from lights, and it just goes grey. You can't shoot it, you know what I mean? So I would have spent so much money just trying to flag all because it's a window, it's an actual glass window in her apartment. And the screen would have been absolutely humongous. I mean, it would have been, when it would have worked for night, it would have worked probably, I would suggest. But she just wanted hard light, and the minute I started to look at it and test this LED screen, none of it seemed to work, and it always looked grey to me. And that maybe it's gotten better now. So
there was a Roscoe backdrop. Did you actually? I have a question.
So the Roscoe, first of all,
was it translite?
Yes.
Yes.
So
So you
the
had
back
a front
is,
and
and
back
you light the
lighting.
back for night. Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly enough, because we shot a lot of vistas, and actually the first vista I chose because I wanted to have things closer in the foreground, but of course, then the parallax is really, you have to judge it really carefully, because if you're then, it looked nicer, if you had a couple of palm trees or a couple of maybe buildings, but then of course if you're in the apartment and you track or you move and there's no parallax, it's very weird.
Yeah.
So we actually chose it, specifically for that.
So did you have a way of testing it, or how did you go?
Yeah, we
about
built it.
Did you have a couple of versions to print out?
No, because
No.
it's so.
Yeah.
All they give you are these little. They give you the little
Test strips, yeah.
But we built the living room was built in Unreal Engine, and we could test it kind of that way.
Okay.
By putting in the ones that the location scout had then set. That was the only thing. So that's the billboard was real. Yeah, we put that in. That was.
But so how did you work with the billboard? Because
I mean, that was
how
everyone
it to
said that it's
scale?
impossible
Yeah.
and you can't do it and it's just going to look totally whack. That was basically and we were like, no, we're just going to build it. I mean, I would say that it was quite tricky to light and then keep the light off of the backdrop. We didn't have enough room, but we went for it anyway. That was a lot of trial and error. And the great thing about, I think, shooting in a studio for that amount of time, we could take it in, test it, and I would test after a day's shooting and try and, so we could see it. Because I didn't know if that was going to work. But then again, a lot of it comes back to, you got to remember, I guess, when you're prepping, you got to think, what is the tone of the movie? What's the tone of the picture you're doing?
Sorry.
Is it back on?
I think I've just messed it up.
Because, of course, it's not a grounded drama in that sense. So I could play with that, And, of course, it's so image-based. Like, she's looking at Vogue, she's looking at posters, she has posters of herself. It fits in that world. So I think you could do it.
It works. And how long did you have to light it and to get it done and lighted?
Well,
I mean, it's pretty nerve-wracking considering that this is just like...
Yeah, you never see it or whatever. We had a couple of days pre-light. Also, we began the movie in the bathroom.
Right, look at that. We're so,
that's so fun. That's
coordinated.
So that is not... But that was the weirdest, tricky place to begin. But it meant that they could continue because, as sets go, always things are running right up to the wire, you know what I mean? and I could come in and light it.
So were you shooting chronologically to some degree?
Only in the large, very much larger
in a sort of
sense.
character development way, or?
Yes, but you know what? Prosthetics also took a precedence.
Like we've done it before.
It's not, but that's actually late, so that's much later. That's at the end of the shoot. But anyway, it was sort of as chronological as it can be, but then you add in prosthetics and you add in the New Year's show. So we had to dismantle, that whole set got destroyed, and we built a theatre on the same stage.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And when they were building the theatre, we were shooting the exteriors in the south of France.
So we'll get back to it. I think the birth scene is a good one to discuss sort of as a way, because I think it describes a sort of a level of intricacy which this film has. And obviously, we're just going to take a look at the clips, but this is a real prosthetic of a woman, right? And this is... just talk to me what happens in here.
No, so this is the
This is the body
back.
Prosthetics, right?
Yeah. So they're underneath. There's a hole in the bathroom floor, the piece that we kept, and that is the SFX. People are behind, like with their fists.
Same speed, go back.
I mean, it is really, when we go back to
there. You see them under the Coralie's there on the monitor. You can just see her with it's a bit dark, but there's like 2 or 3 people underneath. Yeah. So essentially, the birth scene is a scene that I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how many sequences are involved in it, because it starts, with the injection, and all the close-up work and prosthetic work, a lot of it was then done at the end of the shoot in what Coralie termed the lab, which was a much more reduced unit, and we shot for like 4 weeks, kind of redoing the whole movie in close-up.
So Ben got kidnapped to do the close-up work.
Yeah, it was really fascinating in that sense, because prosthetics as well is a very different way of working. You have to, like prosthetics, it's like sort of like cooking, it looks best when it comes straight out of the oven, So with prosthetics, you have to get in and like film when they put it on, and it kind of made a very different way of working for that.
But so you shot that after you finished with actors, right?
Yes.
This particular...
Yes. A lot of, to be honest, I mean, not the stuff that's obviously on to me, but a lot of the prosthetic stuff, because it takes a lot of time. And that's why there was added time on the shoot. I think the lab was going to be a week, and it ended up being like 4 weeks. So that just...
So we've seen that this is the...
that is to me.
Yeah. But I think the reason why I've also chosen this one, because it's going to go into a lot of in-camera tricks. And I think we can keep the sound very, very low, just to see the final
Yeah, so that's
effect.
what you were watching, that sequence,
Yeah.
That's obviously done later in there. That's a close-up.
I mean, it's just incredible amount of macro work.
So again, that's...
What lenses did you use for that?
So for all the macro stuff I had the Cook, I think is it 65 and then a 90?
90, yeah.
And then I also I did get, because she wanted such close work, it did go up to like 200, but I'm not sure, I think that was an Arri lens, that was the 200 one.
Right. And this is Margaret Qualley, right? Is the arm?
Sure, the arm's Margaret's,
And then we...
Oh yeah, the tunnel of light, that was also done in the lab. I can show you how we made that.
So,
again, testing these things was like part of, that birth scene is one that I tested very early on. Like when I read the script, I was like, how are we going to do that? How's that even possible? So very early on, about a month, into, we did a whole basic test I got some doubles, Coralie came down, I got some of my crew, we set up a really crude frame of the mirror, and I sort of started to film what I thought, how it would work. I also used that as a test of how the crew might work, because I didn't know them. You know what I mean? And also how Corley might work on set.
Because the setup was incredible. So all you and cast were English speaking.
Yes.
And then the crew and the director
French.
were French.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
how
yeah.
did that work? How that
worked. I mean, in a way, it's kind of amazing because you can just focus in on, you know, when everyone's chatting French. But I'd say that it was probably a positive in terms of when I was going for the meetings, because Corley didn't want a full French. She was looking for a foreign DP. She didn't want it to become the French and the actors.
So you were the bridging.
Yeah, I became the kind of middle bridging, which is a great place to be, but can also be the most tense place to be.
So there's a question which is coming. So we will get to the tunnel light.
That's all right.
But when we talked about the project, Demi has a very specific way of being filmed, and Corley had a very specific idea of how how she wanted to do a movie, and you were describing.
Yeah, it was a kind of unconventional way of making a movie, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, it was Demi's first, I think, leading role. Is that in like maybe 12 or 15 years? You know, she'd been like in bits parts. Corley, it was obviously Corley's baby. She was very, you know, she'd been working on it a long, long time. When I joined, there were storyboards of many of the scenes. Yeah, and I think there's always, you know, we're all aware of the meta in it with Demi, but of course, for an actor, they don't, you know, Demi she would say, this isn't about me, it's not about me, it's Elizabeth Sparkle or whatever, you know what I mean? And I think, again, this comes back to that we started in the bathroom, which was quite I wonder why we did that, but anyway, that, you know, because they are literally naked in the bathroom, and it's very exposing. Yeah. And it's a place that shows, that's how Corley wanted it to be lit. She was like always saying to me, there's nowhere to hide for her in there. That's where she has to face herself. So straight away, within like week 2, you're putting Demi Moore in front of a mirror and you are trying to highlight her flaws. Because you have to get the audience to a point where they're going to believe that she would take this substance. Mm-hmm. You know, or Elizabeth Sparkle. And I think that, you know, for Demi's process is much more to find the character and spend a bit more time. And I think for Corley, she wants to get right in there straight away. And an example of that would be, you know, often we would start with a close-up. We'd just go in and she'd be like, I want a close-up. And Demi would be like, I want the wide shot.
So what do you do as a cinematographer?
At that
because
point,
you're trying to navigate.
At that point, as a cinematographer, I can only tell you. I mean, I guess on each movie it would be different. I learned very early on that I do not take sides in that, because if I took Demi's side, I wouldn't be back on the job tomorrow. That would be, because also Corley was a producer, director, writer, editor on the film. So it's quite. You know, but also it wasn't, you know, it was a conversation. And there were these moments, which I remember, and they were really rewarding in the end, but they were quite tense to begin with. Yeah, there was 3 moments, and a lot of them, in fact, they weren't the sort of crazy scenes or anything like that. It was Demi looking in the mirror. You know, there's actually one of my favorite scenes, you know, like the makeup scene. Mm-hmm. And it's like when Corley would, you know, because I had sort of like light all the way around the mirror, try and get it all. And Corley was like, Ben, I want you to take it away. She can't be.
No highlight.
Yeah, I want it to really. So that, and then you kind of have to balance that, because of course, then Demi's saying to me, oh, don't show this, don't show that. You know, it's a vulnerable position. So
very.
You have to tread very carefully.
And you're right at the beginning as well of the project.
Yeah,
so everybody is learning what the film is about, how everybody is working.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, you know, I have to Demi's credit, I don't know that many actresses that would do that. You know, after the discussion and after Corley really explaining, which is true. You know, it had to be like a punch in the gut when she looks in the mirror. When Harvey says what he says and she looks in the mirror, it can't just be, it has to be a shot that's quite, you know what I mean? And I think it kind of works in the movie like that. But it was something where we all had to kind of for want of a better word, like strip back any. We couldn't add so much sort of glamour to it. But that they were the
Simplify as much as you can.
Yeah, and in a way, and in a way, those were the most. I mean, they were the only real lighting discussions that we ever got into. Was those moments in the mirror, which were very specific for her.
Going back to our tunnel of light, I thought it was quite interesting. We've got a little video.
Those are 2 discs, that they have put motors on, and then so again, because all that was written in the script is tunnel of light, which of course everyone's seen the Kubrick movie, and
so did you come up with this as an idea?
Yeah, that was.
Wow.
That was. So essentially, because when I started, Corley would have these things, and she's like, "Yeah, but Ben, you're going to come up with a tunnel of light."
Wow.
And you're like, "Okay." So then in the test. During the camera test, I did like lots. I even did like where I did chases on like lots of Asteras, but then and then I put mirrors in it, and I was like, how it just never kept going. It didn't ever have any sort of.
Was it your last sort of
velocity? Well, and I recorded everything, and we played it back, and there was me like just whooshing one of the Asteras past the lens, and it did actually give quite a bit of. It was the only part where I was like, that actually feels at least like I'm going through something.
Yeah.
And it was the grip Toma who was like, oh well, what if you just have 2 discs and then you're looking into it and they're spinning? It would feel like it continues.
That's pretty brilliant.
So it was kind of and then we kind of moved the camera around, filmed it at 5 frames, did a lot of that.
And
that's the test there, yeah.
And then you culminated, so everything was pretty much achieved.
Oh yeah, that's the heart, the flaming heart. Everything was, I think a lot of it was practically done.
And then I just wanted to talk to you about this scene, because there is a lot of, this whole first point of view.
Sorry.
So you're saying that you have taken parts of the camera out, the pin out, and do not do it without the rental house. I came with the warning.
That's true. That's it. No, the opening, because that's after the tunnel of light, and then it was going to be the birth of Sue, and I wanted to do it. Yeah, like with film, you used to flash the film, so I just took the lens off the camera. But then I was like, if I start like that and put the lens in, you always get the click from the pin.
Yeah.
So at the rental house, they said, "Oh, we could take the pin out for you," but then obviously, and then you can do it, and then you just kind of shut it. It's not great with the focus because obviously that's there to locate it. Yeah, so you have to then.
But then what's going on here?
So, and the original idea for this was obviously to be, was the helmet cam, enter the void kind of situation. So I did actually test that really early on. And then I realized the helmet cam was like super heavy, and I was like, Margaret's never gonna wear this.
And also you've got the height difference as well, right?
Yeah, but that is me. I'm operating this. That's the doubles hand. I think it's with a Raptor in the end. So.
Because you had a few camera setups, right? You have Ari, Alexa for the main shoot, and then you build a small red
basically
for little light.
And that came because of, I think, 3 reasons. There were like, when I first started testing, I mean, I've shot most things on the Alexa. I like the Alexa. I think the Alexa has like for skin, and this film is very much focused on skin. It was really good. But there's so many fight sequences or trick shots or these kind of moments, and I was like, I'm not sure I can do it all with the Alexa. And they built me, the Raptor with a battery and handles and a monitor on top can be like this big, and it's 8K. And it does slow-mo up to 200 frames, and it's still widescreen. So that was important because she had said a few times that she wanted to film, certain scenes. There is the chicken and stuff like that. That's 200 frames.
Right.
There's many things.
And you need case,
I needed
right?
So in a way, that was the kind of, any time there was going to be Ks or this was going to zoom in, that was going to be on the Raptor. I'm not really a K guy, but you know what I mean?
But this is also. You said that this is two bathrooms, right?
Yes, that's 2 bathrooms. So
they've built a mirror version of each other.
Yes.
And the hand was the VFX.
Hand was VFX, and obviously the steam on the mirror is VFX.
And then you had to coordinate with Margaret to get the right.
Yeah, we did a whole dance thing.
Yeah.
She used to be a dancer, so that
Yes.
worked quite well. I had to
And
keep
then we've
up,
got
basically.
the clip as well from another
shower.
scene in the shower, which is incredible.
That's like building like 3 shower. Yeah, because at one point it just said, and then the shower, it goes up and up and up. And I said, oh, so is it going to go up and then we see the shower head? And she was like, no, I don't want to see any shower head. So I was like, oh, but what was the water? How are we going to do the water? How is it going to go up? So, yeah, we built this. This, in fact, is the early test because it ended up both this and I think people with actual shower heads just, putting a lot of water in because that actually looked too designed. I think when we that was probably the first test we did.
I mean the final is going on and on and on. Did you have any VFX extension or
that's
all on camera?
That's all the shot.
Yeah.
I think she does get darker. I couldn't work out how to because I had lights on it, so I put lights on the bottom and I was turning them up, but it does get anyway. That's just me about it. But.
So then you went to LA, right?
Yeah, then we went to LA. LA's good.
So
this is on the Croisette. So there's Cannes happening now. So this is basically right outside the Palais.
There's a lot of small sort of trickery of
here we used a travelator.
Travelator.
That's to get lower because Coralie was always like she was like I need to get lower. I want to because obviously the camera's very suggestive when it comes to Sue. So she was like, it needs to, I want to go right around. So yeah, we sort of did the old classic travelator.
I thought that the LA bit is rather brilliant because it's
literally a pink wall. So bonus that the Carlton was in refurbishment. So they had like the wall, the wall where it's a builder's wall, and we just painted it pink. And we got 3 American cars, blue sky. It was sunny that week, and some palm trees. It's literally
and some travelator.
Yeah, travelator.
I
had fun shooting palm trees. I did a whole palm tree unit. That was actually because originally I was going to go to LA and shoot vistas, and I kept saying I don't understand how we're gonna there needs to be space in the film. There needs to be some way to break out of this constant of her in her apartment. And then we just started to shoot the palm trees, which I really like that sequence. Anyway, that was a good way to get around that.
And then we're just going to get into the sort of last sections where, everything just looks really normal. People are leaving,
Oh, yeah, that's Gollum. She's leaving.
And then the camera just goes this.
Yeah, that was just a really basic rig that the grips made just to go down. That's Coralie, the double.
It's just incredible.
Yeah. So a lot of it, because it did end up being quite heavy, and for some of it, for extra shots, because she wanted the nail coming off. So we shot that once Margaret had left. Gosh, who's in there?
This is...
That might even be... So I was on that camera for this take.
That makes me giggle. So how
that's actually Coralie, I think, loved to do the blood. She wanted to do that.
So how many days were you shooting the blood scene?
The whole theatre was 5-day shoot.
Right. And it was obviously super heavy on prosthetics and
there was
difficult.
a lot of stuff. It's slipping now.
That's just... I don't know what happened to that guy.
Yeah, so in there there's 20 stunt people because the only people that are standing should be stunt people because it got really, really slidey and really, really dangerous very quickly. And this effect, so this is another...
It just goes forever.
So the way, and it's so loud, it was so loud in there, the only way that we could tell, when it was going to stop, there was a counter, and the gaffer said, what if I do a color? So in the test, I said, let's do red.
Yeah.
When we shot the test, Coralie was like, I like the red bit. So then we started to shoot the red bit. You know what I mean? So it was quite an interesting process to find how that was going to work. But we did actually design a whole New Year's show lighting design. It was a very nice sort of.
I just. Also, this cracks me up.
That was that one. Then I went in. Then I did go in the audience as well. That was even more.
With the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of shots. I think at some point because she just pointed the hose at me, and like. So then I think it just like at some point, it was on the floor. But that shot might be in it. Might actually be in the film.
And then I just wanna. There's just some behind the scene, and then you had a cameo.
Oh yeah, well cameo. Jeez.
I found
That
it.
was the last minute, a very last minute.
Oh, very
thing,
good.
the cameo. Cameraman number 1.
That was good. You're like
Pump It Up.
Hitchcock. Yeah, I remember. I remember when I saw it, I just giggled.
That's one rule: if you do a cameo, tell your mother, because when they go to the cinema to see it, you don't want them screaming out your name like in the theater, which my mum did when she like. I think it was
So, yeah.
Midnight Scream. So we should go to the bar.
So do you have, let's just ask questions. Do we have
questions.
any questions or should we go to the bar? I think that's, but I think a little bit of a housekeeping, please. Can we speak to the mic? I can't see anything, sorry, I'm blinded. So if anyone is raising, I know there's plenty of hands risen, right? Okay.
No hands.
No hands.
No questions.
There's one. We've got one. Right, gentleman at the back.
Because it's late.
I just wanted to ask about the obviously quite a few Shining homages and what the sort of intent behind all that was and what it was like shooting that.
Yeah, I think the well spotted. I mean, they're quite easy to spot, aren't they? Those ones. The those Shining. Yeah, there's a lot of Kubrick. You know, I think when I read the script and started speaking to Corley, I realized that she works. You know, the characters, they don't have much backstory. Let's say she works in a very symbolic way. She writes like that. You know, the yellow jacket, the yellow of the yolk. So I started to realize that she uses both the references and the symbols that she's playing with are almost like punctuation in the film to give a sense, because there is no, characters don't have backstory, the world isn't real, you know what I mean? So to give you those elements, she plays with, whether it's The Shining or the 2001, you know, because you're already, there's history to that, you know.
But you also said that within the corridor there was a strong storyline within the.
Yeah, so the corridor is one other one. We built the really long corridor, and that is it's in the opening where she walks down it. That was a kind of representation of Elizabeth Sparkle's life through the posters. You know, from a young to like old. Then that gets taken down, and obviously Sue comes. So there's many. Yeah, I can only say that it was something we focused on to, you know, embellish the characters around in a way. And also there's not so much dialogue, it's a visual movie, so it had these sort of key moments, you know.
There's a lot of Cronenberg as well, body horror and a lot of references within. But Coralie released, which I thought was really incredible, released on Mubi her mood board, which is really poppy. Very interesting, very much like the show. And actually watching your mood board, you presented to Corley and hers, this film feels like a perfect sort of combination of both.
Yeah, I sent my mood board before the first meeting, and then she sent me her one later on. I did do 4 meetings for that film. But hers
4
was...
meetings.
4 meetings, yeah. She's as intense in the meetings as filming. So, I mean, she's quite forensic about everything, so... It was something that was very, you know, the first one we just talked about the script, the second one, she mentioned the Paris thing, and then I could tell that it was going to be very involved from that. Yeah.
There's another one in the back.
Hello. Thank you for that film. That was quite an experience. And one thing that really does make it an experience is how visceral the shots are. You know, you the choice. I guess it's a beautifully edited film, so you choose to go close up and you go to the wide, and you know, it's just like it's a rhythmic sort of. And then you're watching it and you're like, oh my god, that's horrible or whatever. And so I just want to know. I would love to just because you said your mood board, and Corey had her mood board, and so I would love to know the kind of, I guess, the dance of the shots for you wanted to create the emotion and the feeling either of disgust or of beauty, of just weirdness and just all the strange feelings that you experience when you watch that. How did you guys come up with the ideas for specific shots? And because you said you had your mood board, she had her mood board. Where were your discussions? How did you come up with this is the shot that's going to make people feel like this?
That was a good question. I think that does start quite early on in prep, where even when you're looking at designs for the location, like the studio build. And like I say, even if I just take the bathroom, which is where we started, and I think a lot of the style was then found in working in that bathroom. I think I shot every angle you can of a bathroom. And even the use of sort of wider lenses started then, because I didn't know it was going to go so wide, and it's things like setting up a shot, maybe doing like a rough rehearsal, and Corley would be like, I just want more power, or it needs to be more. And then I was like, oh, well, let's just try a different lens or a wider lens. And then I started to slowly realize what she meant when she said certain words, and then I realized, okay, it's going to be much more like this. Also, the close-ups are written in a lot to the script when you read it, like the real detail and macro stuff. And I was testing, I tested even scientific lenses for that stuff. They were like T16. They were kind of crazy. You couldn't use them. Sort of like they just went like so. You could get like right into the skin, so it looked like a landscape. I would have liked to have used them, but you just need so much light. But so I think it's both through prep. It's not something that you just kind of come up with like, oh, that's a cool shot, let's do that. You know what I mean? It was something that, I do storyboard a little bit with her. She had storyboarded some of it, and we shortlisted the whole thing before. Even down to mapping out, if we didn't have that set or it wasn't built, we would like tape out, the secret room, and then do little videos and or I would lie down or she would lie down, you know what I mean? So you actually start building, you're constantly building that visual language, I guess, for want of a better.
There's this incredible shot with Margaret Qualley, which is pretty much a mid shot almost to a close up of an eye. How did
the one in the mirror?
Yeah.
So that's part of the birth. Yeah, that's made up of maybe like 4 or 5 different shots. So that was one.
But it feels like one.
Yeah, that's one that I tested early.
So what was discussion around this shot, just to?
First, like, how are we going to do that? So, first of all, I found a wide lens that was going to get really close. That was like a Leica lens, 24, and it could go really, really close. Like you could almost focus onto the plane of the glass. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool because that's the same angle of view that I think we're going to go for like the POV.
Right.
So then I could use that quite far. You try and get one tool to take you as far as you can. And then I did in that test that I did in the camera house, we sent it to VFX and I did one like that, and then I went into another macro, and we ended up on the probe lens.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which at that time, was T14. So the bathroom, also when I was pre-lighting that, I had to remember that also whatever we were doing, it had to be able to go to like T14 as well.
Right.
Which is, I think now that they've actually released some newer versions of it, it's faster. Mm-hmm. But that makes it pretty kind of tricky at points. So yeah, that goes all the way into her eye. Maybe it's like 4 shots. So the very end of it is the very last piece when it goes sort of into the eye, and of course I think there's some kind of liquid or a little bit of the substance in the eye. That's obviously the effects.
Yeah,
you know, they would have built the eye and
it just
done the
you know,
last
feels,
moment at that. Yeah.
Any more questions? There's one in the back again. Just over there.
Hi, Benjamin. First of all, thank you for such a great film. I just wanted to ask, how did you manage to, or how did you deal with keeping consistency throughout the film, or keeping a consistency in your visual language, or the visual language of the film? How did you go about that?
So, I mean, I usually build, I have like a Bible that I start usually during prep, which has got every scene in it and has most of my notes and all the technical notes. So that's on a level. And then, you know, when you're shooting, you are also keeping stills of what you've shot. It's a good question, because on that film, I knew that at the end we were going to go into a lab and shoot quite a lot of it again. You know, like the fly in the glass even, or whatever. And we'd be in completely a different headspace. We'd be like, it was a 104-day shoot, so it was 100 days later, you know, you'd be shooting. So yeah, to keep that visual continuity was quite specific. But I had planned out we had like, both on paper and with stills, we had every single scene and moment. So yeah, you kind of just do it in miniature. Again.
And it sort of becomes like its own beast, right? So you subconsciously build the language of
the
any
important
movie.
part there is that you're being asked, usually during the most stressful time, or you're shooting that, and someone's coming up to you and going, how much of the bathroom do you want to keep? What's the piece you want? You know, you want the bit with the toilet or the... So you do have to, it is actually quite...
For the lab section.
Sorry, for the lab section,
Yeah.
yeah. And with the prosthetic stuff, like you say, most of it we try to keep in, I mean, it's not continuity, but within the chunks. So, you know, when we had like the different stages where she was, you know, there was like the finger, the witchy finger, there was like Requiem where it was like her face, there was Gollum when she was like Gollum, and then there was like Monstro. So those stages were all kind of together, so we could keep that sort of going. There is a part where Monstro does run through a lot of the sets, so we went back. But yeah, you just have to be very, very organized and planned for those things to work.
Pre-planned. I want to wrap it up because I'm aware that it was a very long film, but I'm fascinated at the needle scene, which Ben told me.
Oh yeah.
The part of the birth scene, it's impossible to fake the needle and injection. So what happens with that?
So where the needle actually goes into the skin, that is Coralie's arm. She injected herself.
She injected, yeah, it's pretty
With
incredible.
the substance,
That's a real dedication. Just want to say thank you so much, and thank you, Ben. I mean, the film is amazing.
Thank you.
A lot of technical work.